Hey, today we're going to discuss a family of transmembrane receptors that is most commonly known as G-protein coupled receptors, but other names for this family of receptor is serpentine receptor or 7-pass receptor. Now this serpentine and 7-pass receptor are the names given because this kind of receptor has a very bulky and long polypeptide chain that passes several times through the plasma membrane. And G-protein coupled receptor because a trimeric protein, which we're going to discuss later, is involved in the working of this receptor. Now if we talk about that how these receptors basically work, we assume that this receptor is present on the in the plasma membrane of a cell, and we assume that this is a myocardial cell. And our ligand here is let's say it's epinephrine, and it is binding to this ligand binding domain. And let's say that this G protein coupled receptor here is beta 1 adrenergic receptor. Now before this ligand bind to the ligand binding domain of this receptor, I would like to tell that there is a trimeric protein which is known as G protein. Now this protein can be inhibitory or stimulatory, but here we are talking about stimulatory G protein. So it would be alpha stimulatory and beta stimulatory, and similarly this would be G stimulatory protein coupled receptor. So before the ligand binds to the ligand binding domain and the signal reaches to this G protein, this G protein is basically inactive, and the alpha subunit, that is most important of them, is bind with a low energy molecule, that is GDP. So at this stage this alpha subunit is basically inactive and it has low energy. Now when this epinephrine binds to the ligand binding domain on the receptor, this basically transmits the signal through its effector domain to this G protein, and now this G protein has got the signal. Now it will become activated, and what will happen here, this stimulatory alpha subunit will detach itself from the beta and gamma units, and now it acquires high energy molecule GTP. It loses basically GDP here and it acquires GTP. Now it becomes active and it has high energy. This alpha subunit will now carry signal to effector molecule, effector protein basically. It is, that is adenylyl cyclase, and adenylyl cyclase is basically an enzyme that transfer or convert ATP into cyclic AMP or CAMP, which is secondary messenger. So this alpha subunit will come here and it will basically bind to this site. This is alpha subunit with its GTP, and it will basically stimulate adenylyl cyclase to convert ATP into CAMP, and in this way our CAMP level has been increased inside the cell. Now CAMP here is a secondary messenger, and I would like to tell that secondary messenger is basically a molecule that is released in response to an external messenger or first messenger, which in this case was epinephrine. So secondary messenger basically helps to bring the changes at cellular level in response to when ligand binds to the receptor. Now the CAMP level inside the cell has been increased. Now when the CAMP levels in the cell increases, we see that it basically stimulate another enzyme which is known as protein kinase A. So we start here that when the CAMP levels increase, it basically stimulate protein kinase A, kinase for AMP, because it is stimulated by CAMP. So when this protein kinase A is basically stimulated, it phosphorylates different proteins or different transcription factors or different other like channels in the cell, which basically bring changes in the metabolic processes of the cell. So for example, we know that when enzymes are dephosphorylated, they are inactivated. So this protein kinase A, suppose it activates or it phosphorylates some enzyme, and it basically becomes active, and it will like catalyze different metabolic processes. Or protein kinase A may phosphorylate different transcription factors, so basically when these are phosphorylated, they bring changes in the genomic expression of the cell. So they ultimately bring changes in genomic expression. Or for example, they phosphorylate some kind of ion channel, and that ion channel will be activated in response. For example, here it phosphorylates a calcium channel. So that calcium channel will basically open, and there will be an influx of calcium inside the cell, and it will change the electrical properties of the cell. It will change electrical properties of cell. Now we have seen that there is increased level of CAMP, and in different ways CAMP is now bringing changes or modification in cells activities. Now there need to be some counteractive mechanism to decrease these levels of CAMP. So there is an enzyme which is known as phosphodiesterase, and phosphodiesterase basically an enzyme that converts CAMP into AMP. So CAMP is converted into AMP, and this is by an enzyme which is phosphodiesterase. So phosphodiesterase basically will prevent the sustained elevated levels of CAMP inside the cell. Now there are very some common drinks like tea and coffee which basically inhibit this phosphodiesterase. They basically inhibit tea or coffee. They basically inhibit this enzyme, and which leads to an increased levels of CAMP, sustained elevated levels of CAMP inside the cell, and that's why we feel active after having our morning coffee. And there should be some enzyme that basically dephosphorylate the proteins that were phosphorylated by protein kinase A when it was stimulated by CAMP. So there is an enzyme that is known as phosphatase. So phosphatase is basically an enzyme that dephosphorylate the protein. So here we have phosphorylated protein, and it is basically dephosphorylated now. Dephosphorylated, whether it be a protein or calcium channel or an enzyme. So it is dephosphorylated by phosphatase enzyme. So that is also a sort of mechanism that helps to maintain the balance when there are increased levels of CAMP. Now after talking about G stimulatory protein, we talk about G inhibitory protein, which almost has same mechanism, but it results in the inhibition of adenylyl cyclase, and hence the CAMP levels in the cell basically decreases. So here we assume that our ligand here in this case is basically acetylcholine, and acetylcholine come here and it basically binds with the ligand binding domain, and here is our trimeric G protein with its 3 subunits alpha, beta and gamma. Now this ligand binding domain has a ligand attached to it, and it basically transmits a signal through its effector domain, and this signal is now received by this G protein, and just like G stimulatory protein, it basically alpha subunit detaches itself from the beta and gamma subunit. And here alpha subunit was basically inactivated and had low energy molecule GTP. Now it is activated and it has high energy molecule GTP, and this GTP will now go to its effector protein, that in this case is also adenylyl cyclase. But the difference comes here because this alpha inhibitory subunit basically binds to a different site at adenylyl cyclase as compared to the alpha stimulatory subunit of the G protein. This will bind to a different site of adenylyl cyclase, and basically it will inhibit the adenylyl cyclase, and it will inhibit, and the ATP is not converted into CAM. So basically this process is inhibited. So this process here is inhibited right now, whereas the beta and gamma subunit of this inhibitory G protein goes to bind with a calcium, a potassium channel. Here is our potassium channel present in the plasma membrane of the cell, and this beta and gamma subunit comes here and binds to it. And we know that cells are basically bags of potassium, and there is a lot of potassium inside the cell. So when this binds to the potassium channel, the potassium channel will open, and there is an outflux of potassium. This potassium will move out of the cell, and inside of the cell is now negative. And we know that when the inside of cell becomes negative, the cell becomes hyperpolarized. Cell is basically now hyperpolarized, and cell is now electrically inhibited, which means it can no longer can conduct action potential. And यहाँ पर जो है, and here our basically adenylyl cyclase is inhibited, and consequently inhibits the protein kinase A system. Protein kinase A, and consequently there is no phosphorylation of different enzymes or proteins. So in summary, I would like to do a little comparison between G stimulatory and G inhibitory protein. So G stimulatory is basically the one that increases the levels of CAMP, and G inhibitory reduces the level of CAMP. And G stimulatory basically stimulate the activity of protein kinase A. So basically protein kinase A is basically stimulated here, and here protein kinase A basically inhibited. And here the G stimulatory protein basically stimulate calcium channels. They stimulate the opening of calcium channel, and here it stimulate opening of potassium channel. And it causes the influx of cations and stimulate the cell. Influx of cation and it basically stimulates the cell electrically, and here it causes efflux of cations and it basically electrically inhibits the cell.